reading this, figured might as well go live and look at this together. So here we go. Let me know if you have any questions or anything. Just leave them there in the chat. Energy, mind, and matter. The foundation of the universe is material in the sense that energy is the basis of all existence, and pure energy is controlled by the universal Father. So it's interesting to note that everybody with their fancy scientific degrees and all of that, we already know more than them because we know the source of this type of thing. And I would stake my life on that. People might say that that is a faith or a belief, but I've had enough experiences to know that that is literally the truth. This literally is the source of energy. Force energy is the one thing which stands as an everlasting monument, demonstrating and proving the existence and presence of the universal absolute. This vast stream of energy proceeding from the paradise presences has never lapsed, never failed. There has never been a break in the infinite upholding. So there's constantly, folks, right now, right here, right now, we're being streamed at by energy that is divine in origin. The manipulation of universe energy is ever in accordance with the personal will and the all wise mandates of the universal Father. So there is that over control there. This personal control of manifold power and circulating energy is modified by the coordinate acts and decisions of the eternal Son, second person of deity. See how they're working together here, as well as the united purposes of the Son and the Father, executed by the conjoint actor, third person of deity. So that is the function there, the third person of deity, conjoint actor. Where Western man's scriptures called that the Holy Ghost, which is such a nondescript sort of uh, way to describe it. When we see that it's the God of action, it takes these purposes and then puts them into action, then we understand the purpose of the second or the third person, the Trinity, more, the conjoint actor. These divine beings act personally and as individuals. They also function in the persons and powers of an almost unlimited number of subordinates, each variously expressive of the eternal and divine purpose in the universe of universes. But these functional and provisional modifications or transmutations of divine power in no way lessen the truth of the statement that all force energy is under the ultimate control of a personal God resident at the center of all things. So everything gets dispersed, even the roles in the universe. That's why there's beings called master physical controllers, Urantia power supervisors, who have the role of directing and redirecting this energy and force, but it does stem here from the eternal God resident at the center of all things. Paradise force and energies. This is a great way to understand this. The foundation of the universe is material, but the essence of life is spirit. So that essence, that flavor of life. The Father of spirits is also the ancestor of universes. The eternal Father of the original Son is also the eternity source of the original pattern. Pattern extremely important in the universe. And that is the Isle of Paradise. It's such a huge entity. It's almost like the fourth person in the Trinity, but it's not a person, so they don't call it, but it's where gravity stems from. It's it's the center of matter. The Isle of Paradise is the center of matter. Here, let's detail this. Okay, this is an important thing to know. So you have your Trinity right here, where you have your God, that's Father, right? Then you got your God, Son, which, interestingly enough, the Son, even though they call it the Son, the quality of love from the Son is more mother-like, and the quality of love from the Father is more father-like. So if you think about your own mother and father, you see there's a different quality of love there. So that's how they distinguish, even though they're using the word son. Okay. And then we have what they call the third person, or they sometimes call it the conjoint actor. And Western man scripture calls that the Holy Ghost or whatever. This conjoint actor is the third person of the Trinity, and you can see this descriptor as it puts into action some of these divine attitudes. All right. Now, then you have the Isle of Paradise, and that is the center of eternity, the center of infinity, the dwelling place of these beings, a place that we will eventually ascend to after we go world after world on our faith walk and life after life. So here's this point that I want to make. God the Father, personality is the circuit that is controlled by God the Father. Personality. God the Son, spirit. Spirituality is the circuit of God the Son. Conjoint actor, mind. Now that's cosmic mind, divine mind. And then Isle of Paradise is matter, energy, force, that sort of thing. Okay? So you can see these are the discrete realms that we operate in, folks. We all have a personality, completely unique and different from each other, to where if you're, let's say, if one of your friends had a sheet over them and you couldn't see anything about them, or they changed their voice, you'd still know who it was by the way that they were engaging with you. That is a circuit. Personality is a circuit, meaning if you think of a circuit, it's got all these different branches, but then there's this central personality, God the Father. So this is the circuit, this personality, this as personal as you can possibly get. Spirit, there's aspects of spirit that aren't personal. And that's why the realms are discrete from each other, meaning they're separate, but they're notwithstanding their intimate coordination. Mind is the same thing. Mind is separate than spirit. So right now we're just talking about ideas and you're listening to me, and we might be functioning on both of these levels, all three of these levels, in fact all four, right? But they're not the same exact thing, spirit and mind. They're always going to be discrete from each other, but that means that there's a lot of intercoordination. So that's the quote, notwithstanding their intimate intercoordination with each other. They're all tied in, but they're different. As in, I could drink, if I think about the phrase 4 plus 4, if I'm just thinking about it, it doesn't do anything. But if I write it down, now I'm using matter and energy here to create that. So it's a discrete, but they're all intercoordinated. All right. So that's where all those come in. So now, as we're looking at, let's go back to the book here. I don't know if I can see questions. If people have any questions or anything, then just feel free to type them in, and then we can go to the book and look at some different various things. But so this is where we're getting paradise, forces and energies. So the Isle of Paradise is obviously the creation of God, and it's not the other way around. So where were we? Right here, I believe. Okay. The foundation of the universe is material, but the essence of life is spirit. The Father of spirits is also the ancestor of the universes. And they're also at one at that level. Remember, the Trinity is actually only one God. So that's your paradox right there. The eternal Father of the original Son is also the eternity source of the original pattern, the Isle of Paradise. See, he created the paradise, but now, since paradise is functioning and these waves of gravity are coming from paradise, then the Father can just let it do its thing. It's almost like making a machine. Matter, energy, for they are but diverse manifestations of the same cosmic reality. As a universe phenomenon is inherent in the universal Father. In him all things consist. Matter may appear to manifest inherent energy and to exhibit self-contained powers, But the lines of gravity involved in the energies concerned in all these physical phenomena are derived from and are dependent on paradise. Now, here's a revelation that they're giving us about science. The automaton is the first measurable form of energy. So we are looking at our atom. At one point, we thought the atom, and then we're like, oh no, it's the electron that's the smallest. But now we're looking at our quarks are even more fundamental than the electron, and oh, our strings are even more fundamental than our quarks. And so they have string theory and stuff like this. But they're saying the most fundamental is this thing called the automaton. Um, and now this is the interesting thing to note because we know what a nucleus is. Look at this. The automaton, the first measurable form of energy, has paradise as its nucleus. Now that is, to me, blew my mind when I really wrapped my mind around that. That means that all of these different atoms, what is the actual nucleus of everything that we're seeing, that we're touching, that we're feeling? The nucleus eventually goes back to paradise. So, in that way, I mean, it's just such a perfect reality that we're in. And the evils and flaws of the world and our own depressions or sadnesses and things are just relative realities to this. If we could put on, some sort of spiritual vision and see what was really taking place, or go beyond the matrix, or however people describe it, you would see that we're really, everything is existing with paradise as its nucleus. So if you knew that, if you truly understood that, it's impossible to feel any sort of negative feeling. It's impossible to get caught up in your life. uh, or you could be at the level where if you do get caught up, then you quickly change your mind and say, wait a minute, I'm an eternal being. I'm not going to die. I've already chosen this path of understanding the Trinity and going on throughout time and space as a spiritual being. What is there to get upset about? As Jesus of Nazareth said, what should it matter if the whole world collapses around you, for you have eternal life, right? We can't lose, folks. I'm going to write that down. We can't lose. We can't lose. And who's we? Sons and daughters of God. And it doesn't matter what religion you are, what thing you're interested in right now, uh, philosophy or background or whatever, it doesn't make a difference. If you have this faith and this belief um, of this divine entity known as God, this word symbol, which is really just, as the Urantia book points out, deity and divinity. Going off on a tangent. Deity, remember, is personality. That's the personalizable aspect of God. Now that would be closer to um, your Western man's scriptures, right? God the Father, stuff like that. Divinity is the more all-pervasive aspect of God. And that would be closer to your Eastern understanding, your Atman, right? Because they don't have a centralized personal God. That's the difference between Eastern and Western right there. All right. But what does the Urantia book do? It just unifies them both. God's both, folks. So we're already more advanced than your most advanced Western man scripture guy and your most advanced Eastern kind of guy. Because we have this simple kind of unification and understanding. These non-personal levels of God are a reality. They talk about, in the Urantia book, they call it the unqualified absolute. Unqualified absolute. So these are these non-personal aspects. But what are you going to do when you're having a rough day and you want to just talk to a being and say, hey, geez, can you look after me today? I got a hard day coming up ahead, or my family member is sick. Can you just give me some strength? Give me some. You're not going to say that to the unqualified absolute. You're going to say that to the personal Father, to God, and say, can you understand my plight down here? What is the unqualified absolute? That's so non-personal. But sometimes when you're just sitting there and you're present and you're meditating, you don't want there to be a central personality. You just want to experience it all around you, like how the Buddhists and Zen and all them talk about. So then you have your both. That's easy enough. And it would make sense that it would be both. Why would God be limited in that aspect? Okay. So look at this. The automaton, the first measurable form of energy, has paradise as its nucleus. So it all stems back to that paradise, even the tree that you're looking at out your window or anything like that. Okay. The automaton is the smallest, first measurable form of energy. Because what's beyond that, what's more fundamental than that? Well, non measurable. You can't measure paradise. There is innate in matter and present in universal space a form of energy not known on this planet, Urantia. When this discovery is finally made, this is quite the revelation right here. Then will physicists feel that they have solved. Wait, am I missing chats? I'm not. Top chat. Oh, okay. If you have any sort of questions or anything, just put them in the chat there. Okay. The physicists feel that they have solved almost at least the mystery of matter. So this came out in the 1950s. We hadn't discovered it yet, and I don't believe that we have, but we're getting very, very close with this really huge influx of quantum understanding, and they're going to branch off into many different directions before they actually finally hit on it, and they're going to get sidetracked on their own goose chases about what is consciousness and so forth. But it's not consciousness that's creating energy, folks. It is. It's God consciousness. Consciousness isn't God. God is conscious. But people are out there practically worshiping this thing called consciousness when it's only just one aspect of God. God is so much more than just consciousness. Remember, there's non-personal aspects of it that are just unbelievably beyond comprehension. They're beyond consciousness. You can't, unless you attain these levels, can you even wrap your mind around it? They're just beyond that. Okay. Um, so will they have approached one step nearer the creator. So even if they discover that, now this is interesting, even if they discover that consciousness is so important in your quantum understanding, look at, so will they have mastered one more phase of the divine technique. So they're understanding some sort of divinity there, but in no sense, now this is where it gets crucial because we here, spiritualists, we are already more advanced in this. Because look at this, in no sense will they have found, you know what it's going to say? God. You can't find God through measuring atoms and discovering the most fundamental aspect of them, even if it is consciousness and your quantum fields and things. You're still not going to be proven God. That's a step that we've already taken and understood right now where we're at. So we can say the people with the fanciest degrees in the universe, purely scientific minds, we're already more advanced than them. And I would stake my life on that. Neither will they, but it is faith. I can't prove. I'm not going to write that down to somebody. A scientist could read that and just be like, "Well, you're just trying to make up some clever way of making yourself feel better, and that's what God is." And we understand all those arguments and everything, and all we can say is, "All right, how do you know what I know? You can't know what I know. I mean, I can't. If there's something beyond logic, I can't ever teach it to you. I can't ever, you know, I can't write a theorem about it." But you can't know what I know just simply because I can't express it with a theorem, right? So they're going to come close, but they're still, no matter how close they get to matter and understanding matter, they're not going to discover God. Neither, because that's always going to be a change of heart. It's always going to take a leap of faith, a change of heart, whatever you want to call it, to say, geez, I know that the data's not there, and I know that there's all these wars happening in this world, but there's got to be a God out there. See, that's just that little change of heart. Well, big. It's not little. But that's why people that are in these war-torn, if you were to look at, let's say, the bombings that's happening in Gaza Strip right now, if you go through and say, how many of you believe in God? I'm sure it'd be over 50%. And you say, geez, you guys are getting bombed. You're watching people die in hospitals, and then the hospital gets bombed and everything. How are you guys still believing in God? And they say, well, it's beyond logic. The logic would say, my hospital is getting bombed right now. There can't be a God. Why? I didn't do anything wrong. My child didn't do anything wrong. So why is God punishing me? And that would be the philosophical logic behind it. But then when you go beyond it, see, even philosophy is not going to contain the logic. If philosophy contained the logic for God, then nobody would be being bombed that believed in God. Okay? But when you go beyond that and you expand your scope beyond that to the spirit, to the spiritual, which is the heart, it's just that could be a word symbol, for the heart, the spirit, that is how we approach this, and no other way. Look at, neither will they have established the existence of matter or the operation of natural laws apart from the cosmic technique of paradise and the motivating purpose of the universal Father. See, they're not going to say, oh, this is why it's happening, right? There's always that question, why? Whoa, geez, we got the Big Bang down to the very minute that it happened. And that's a scientific fact. But then they say, well, why did it happen? I don't know, maybe we need to learn more about science to figure out why. Nope, never going to happen. Science alone is never going to tell you the purpose of it. Right? Again, you got to go for the faith walk. But here's the great thing about the faith walk, it goes from uh, belief to faith to knowing. So you start off here, geez, there's got to be something out there. There's got to be something out there. Then you go a little bit more and say, I'm really convicted in this. I started having these experiences. I just things seem to be, going my way now that I've started out of this. And then I'm convinced, this is your faith. But then as you continue in this faith, then you are going to get to this knowing level here. All right. And then you will know. I mean, the beings that are writing this book, they know there's not the words for it to tell that there's this type of thing, to prove it to you. But they know it, and you can know it too. If you go really into your faith walk, then you will have that knowing experience. And you have to be open-minded. Remember, a wise man or woman lives by what truth they can find today, and they're wholly ready to call it a falsehood tomorrow. So you have to be open-minded and ready to be on a faith walk. Okay, the universe is going to be leading you here, this way and that way. And if you're open and you're saying, I really do want to progress, and it's saying, well, geez, remember how you used to think that marijuana was part of your religion? Well, here's a new revelation, the Urantia book, which is saying that we need a mind of perfect poise with balanced chemical function, and influencing, throwing that chemical balance off every 4 or 5 hours by smoking a joint. That's not balanced chemical function. You are altering your chemical function. So if you hear that and you are open to the Urantia book, and then you say, okay, well, you know what? I used to think that my religion was marijuana and Rastafarian, and maybe there's even many people in the Urantia community who are very readily able to throw out those quotes like a mind of perfect poise, or they're able to rationalize them in some way to say, no, I don't need a body of clean habits because Jesus drank wine and ate fish. And that is their rationale, that they're looking at his revelation, which was the fourth revelation, and they're not taking the fifth, which is the Urantia book. And he wasn't here to give the fifth epochal revelation. Jesus was only here to give the fourth epochal revelation, which was faith, right? Faith in one God, faith in God, and the brother and sisterhood of all. That was the gospel of Jesus. Simple, short, succinct, brother and sisterhood of ALL, not just the believers, of all humans, even the non-believers, unlike Christianity, which has become a cult of believers only and everybody else goes to hell. This was what he really taught, was the brother and sisterhood of all believers, non-believers, doesn't make a difference. And but Christianity changed that. That was his mission. That was the fourth epochal revelation. Okay, Jesus was the fourth. Urantia book is the fifth. And what does the Urantia reveal in advancement to what Jesus taught? God the Supreme, the evolving God of time and space, which evolves with each decision that we make, our choices. So basically, Jesus taught this faith as the eternity, right? That grants you eternity. That's what Jesus taught. Faith in God will grant you eternity. And he's still correct. So we're not saying, no, Jesus was wrong. We're adding something to it. We're adding the fifth epochal revelation, which is that mastery, self-mastery, which is self-control, self-restraint, and self-discipline. Self-mastery is the way to advance in that eternity, right? World after world, life after life, the evolving aspect of God the Supreme. It would have been too much. They didn't even handle his revelation because they put him on the damn cross, right? They couldn't even handle this simple aspect and they killed him. If he was trying to go there and say, hey guys, wine is going to cause you cancer, they'd be like, what the fuck is cancer? So, so when people say Jesus drank wine, well, truth is living. And people in the Urantia community say that too, because they just don't want to, they're turning this book into a crystallized religion, the exact thing that it warned against. And they're turning this into a crystallized religion, and they are not taking the wisdom from it, the fifth epochal revelation, which is that it's a mind of perfect poise, housed in a body of clean habits, with stabilized neural energies, that the maximum amount of light and truth can be imparted with the minimum risk to the welfare of the being. So it does take that mind of perfect poise, housed in a body of clean habits. And we know from our science, we don't even need to go to the Urantia book. We know that alcohol causes cancer. So that is Jesus drinking wine, and you're not growing with the revelations as they're coming. What's the sixth going to be? There's going to be a Trinity teacher son on the planet, and what are they going to reveal about? Revelation is never definitive. It is an ongoing thing. So we can't crystallize what truth is. So, subsequent to even still greater progress and further discoveries, after Urantia has advanced immeasurably in comparison with present knowledge, though you should gain control of the energy revolutions of the electrical units to matter to the extent of modifying their physical manifestation. So they're talking about some really advanced, forms of energy manipulation here. Even after all such possible progress, which they foresee our scientists having, because all the other planets that they have observed, human planets, have discovered that. So eventually we will. Forever will scientists be powerless to create one atom of matter. So it's never going to happen. And that is something that I would hang my hat on to the end of time. If I was to say, well, to somebody, when you can create an atom in a lab, I will stop believing in God. I could say that because they're never going to do it. They're never going to create it to originate one flash of energy. They're never going to create energy or ever to add matter, that which we call life. Add to matter, that which and they're never going to create life in a lab. And they are searching and searching and searching. And so many people have a stake in this search for the origins of life, They want a scientific origin of life. They want to say, well, okay, we got just like the Big Bang, they got the evolution down to the single-celled organisms, but they don't know where the single-celled organisms came from. What are they have these current hypotheses about when hydrogen collides with this and blah blah blah, this energy is inputted and stuff. If you look it up, if you Google it, you'll see that there are these different hypotheses about how you know mechanized things in the universe, like atoms of matter, are going to create life, but they're never going to become more than just this person's hypothesis. They're never going to become a theory, and they're never going to become fact. They would have to create it in the lab, they'd have to duplicate it. It's just never going to happen. They're never going to understand it because it's spiritual in nature. We know, if we read this book, we know the spiritual in nature they call the life carriers. And I believe it goes on to say that. Here, the creation of energy and the bestowal of life are prerogatives of the universal Father and his associate creator personalities. Okay, that's where it stems from. And so we already know all those people, and they would love to prove the religionists wrong, and that would do it in an instant. If they were to somehow figure out how to create life, or which atoms collided together to create life on this planet, if they were to figure that out, then there goes a win for atheism. And they can really, but we are hanging our hat on those two things. We're hanging our hat on one, the creation of life. Scientists has no idea how that happens. Not saying the evolution. We got the evolution down, and we agree with them because we love fact, and we agree with the scientific fact of evolution, and which is consensus. Scientific consensus is fact. And then also the cause of Big Bang. They don't understand those origins either, and they're never going to, folks. And we already understand that because have already accepted that God is the creator. So I would die for that in a second. If somebody said, I'll shoot you tomorrow, if you don't stop believing in that fact, then I won't shoot you, or I'll put you up on the cross or something like that. I'd say, I don't give a shit. Put me on the cross, because I am so convinced. Or if somebody put a gun to my head in the street and said, you have to change your mind about science has created us, I'm so convinced and so assured of the fact that God is a reality. I've had personal experiences which prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt, and maybe you have also. But if not, remember, belief to faith to knowing. Faith, like Jesus said, that will grant you the eternity to keep on going and going and going. But eventually you're going to have to do the next step, which is self-mastery, evolution of God, the supreme, the evolving God of time and space. And then you will be able to ascend and have knowing experiences, ascend beyond whichever sphere of existence you're at, be it in the mansion worlds. Okay, let's look at this. The river of energy and life is a continuous outpouring from the deities, the universal and united stream of paradise force going forth to all space. This divine energy pervades all creation. See, we're so assured that we have personality survival in the universe. It's not even a question. This is why this is all around us right this very moment. Okay? Stream of paradise going forth to all. We're in this space. This is ALL space. Right now, what you're experiencing, what you're living, this is coming from paradise, folks. It's so much. This is the one thing that reading this whole entire book, it really made me say, I want to be at the level of knowing. I want to go beyond faith. So I did those things. Like I was saying earlier, you might have to change your certain attitude towards how you're going to advance on this path. And what is the practical ways? Remember, self-mastery. We talked about self-mastery. Practical ways. Here we go. Lifestyle, diet, habits, those sort of things. Now, here's where this is where the many get it wrong. Okay, they think that it's you need to do self denial. Denial. I don't know how to spell that. um, you don't need to. That was the olden times. The Hindus sleeping on their beds of nails, raising their arm into the air until it becomes a shriveled mass as a way to worship God. We don't need to do self denial, self torture, self pain, self extreme, all of that type of stuff. Self denial is an old way, okay? We can enjoy the beautiful fruits of nature and these healthy foods. We can have a million and one taste sensations for all these divine, delectable, colorful, bright fruits and things of nature. We don't need to do, concocting all these various flavors because remember, they say that, what do they say? Variety is the spice of life. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but what variety, this is the way, cross that state out of your mind. What it really is, variety is the spice of gluttony. That's what variety is, a spice of gluttony. You can have a million and one different varieties in this, but when you start to go towards the things that we know, remember, this is practical, okay? This could even have nothing to do with spirituality at all, even though we learn that it does because they are all synthesized. But throw spirituality out of the window. Who here would say that having good diets and good habits isn't a practical way to have a healthy life? Isn't a practical way to let go of stress, anxiety, and tension as your systems are functioning better? But what the Urantia book reveals is that it's not only, you're not only just going to have a better human life and say, wow, I feel really good, and blah, blah. You're going to start having these mind blowing spiritual epiphanies and truths and ascend on these cosmic or psychic circles. The psychic circles, there's 7 psychic circles. As you become more spiritual, as you advance even more, you ascend in these psychic circles. Okay, there's 7 of them. And how do you get there? Do you get there by having a frantic mind that needs to put alcohol and marijuana into it every 5 seconds? No. I mean, you can do it, and that's what Jesus taught. You can do that. That's fine. You can do that. Have faith. Remember, this isn't try to do this now and beat yourself up if you can't change your diet or change your habits, or else you're going to go to hell for eternity. No, it's not that. No. It's relax and flow. Okay, that's a great word. Flow. Relax and flow. That is how we ascend, because when we break those shackles of needing to do it now and beating myself up because I'm a bad person and I didn't do the right diet today, when we break that shackle and we relax and flow, it makes attaining this even easier, okay? Because your mind becomes, remember, this is a mind of perfect poise to attain psychic circles, 7 of them. And you do mind of perfect poise with all of this dietary, lifestyle habits, meditation, holistic type of mentalities. And that is how we truly will not only just have human experiences, right? And just say, wow, I didn't have to go and pay a medical bill today because I didn't get heart disease today. Isn't that nice? That makes my human experience much, much better. But we will start to not only just have nice human, but we're going to start cracking into these deep, profound spiritual epiphanies and knowing experiences and things that we can't even really fully quantify yet until we have them happen. So just remember, every time you make a positive decision, 2 things simultaneously happen. The first thing that happens is what you are saved out of. Okay? And both of these things, as the Urantia book reveals, is evolving God the supreme, which is the evolving aspect of time and space, which is not complete yet. The Trinity and that aspect of God is complete, but we here in time and space need a special aspect of God to grow with us. Okay? Because we're in a different circumstance here in time and space. So we need this thing called God the Supreme. And God the Supreme advances with every single small choice that we make. A really tiny, tiny, infinitesimal, or however you say that word, choice is going to evolve God the Supreme, right? And we're dealing with perfection. So even if you had 7 beers and you had that eighth cracked open and you said, oh, I can't do it, I'm going to dump it down the sink. You're evolving God the Supreme right there, right? That's perfection that we're dealing with, folks. None of these things are going unnoticed or anything like that. It's not like it's an invasion or anything, because you're talking about all loving beings and you have the free will to choose it. But when you do that, that one tiny choice is going to save you out of something down the road. It could be something simple, like maybe you won't trip down the stairs and break your ankle. Maybe you won't get into a car and get in an accident. Maybe it'll be something that is being saved up, as Jesus, I believe it was Jesus, that store up your treasures in heaven. Maybe you're not going to realize it, and you probably won't. Maybe you're going to see all your family, people running around like chickens with their head cut off on the planet when there's some sort of calamity or something. And you will have this peace which passes all understanding. When people, like, for instance, if the dollar collapses, the dollar could collapse tomorrow. They're going to orchestrate it. They'll bring it down when they want to. Central banking, a criminal organization. That's a whole different topic. But that central banking, the criminal organization of banksters, fraudulent. They could collapse the money at the dollar at any time that they want. We're doing a slow roll here with the inflation. They have to keep inflating and inflating and inflating. And eventually, we're just going to have this hyperinflation. That's just the monetary system. It's based on debt. So eventually, there's going to be, you can't keep these band-aids going forever. There's going to be something that happens. It's not the end of the world, as they call it in Christianity. It's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world system of things. So that means something like your monetary system, which is debt-based, okay? So anyways, when that happens and everybody's like, oh my God, the dollar has collapsed. We're going to say, what? We've chosen eternal life. What does it matter to us if the whole world collapses around us, or the whole world system of things collapses around us? We have eternal life. So we're going to be saved out of that, but we won't know until it happens. That's when we are going to remember this statement, okay? We don't know what we're being saved out of right now by making this positive choice. The number one choice being to align with God and to have faith in God, as Jesus taught. That's the first priority, because then you'll have the time, you'll have the eternity to relax and flow and let go of these other things that are holding you and I back. All right? So what we're going to be saved out of, and we will know. When this happens and we say, geez, I'm in a good position here in life. Why is that when everybody else is going crazy over this stuff? Oh, that's right. I embraced deity and divinity. God, in other words. I embraced God. Oh, I'm making choices that are making me open myself up for being saved out of something. Another great concept that I was taught was that if the world, you can consider the world to be a ship, and the ship is already going down. The ship is sinking. So now it's It's not about saving the ship. It's not about saving this world system of things. This is already going down. It's just an illusion that it doesn't seem like it hasn't collapsed already. They're able to put band-aids on it, print, more money, add trillions and trillions to the debt every year, that sort of thing. But eventually they're not going to be able to do that, okay? So this is already going down, but it's a matter now of saving the beings off, okay? Here's people on the ship. Now it's a matter of who you're going to save off the ship. The ship's already going down. So that what you're being saved out of. Now remember, that's every time that you make a positive choice, what you're being saved out of. And remember, since we're dealing with perfection here, it doesn't matter like the little tiny choice is still going to save you out of something. And I experience this, like, for instance, if I'm interested in dating somebody and it doesn't seem to work out, I used to be like, oh, geez, what did I do wrong? It failed. It must have failed. But now I look at that experience and say, well, that was going to be a crash and burn. I'm glad I got saved out of that because I'm acting virtuous and I'm not forcing things. So if it doesn't match up, then let it go, right? This is the divine saving you out of something down the road rather than you forcing the situations, manipulating them, and trying to get your fixes, whatever they may be. Uh, if you just relax and let it flow, it's going to come back to you. As Jesus said, store up your treasures in heaven. So that's one positive thing that can happen whenever you make a good choice. The second positive thing that can happen, besides what you're being saved out of, the second is qualification for more greatness and goodness. So this one is more the negative one, right? Saving out of something has to denote that there's some sort of calamity or something that needs to be. This one is purely you're just upping your character. You're growing your character. You're becoming more of this potent force, this spiritual powerhouse, this lighthouse, this pioneer who's going to be able to have more qualifications in the universe, have more things that are bestowed to you, as far as maybe there's more responsibility. And then with that will come more greatness and goodness. Another way to put this is you are simultaneously upping your status in the universe. Upping your status in the universe. All right? That is what's happening. So now you're not going to have to go through Mansion World number 1 because that's where they teach people that you're not supposed to drink. This is a crude example. I don't know. I mean, that could be the reality of it. It is a remedial world, a detention center, which is about eliminating backwards concepts from people. So people are like, yeah, my religion is that I lick a toad and I take DMT and I snort this chemical and I smoke this chemical and that's my religion. That's the way I'm getting closer to God. I am dead set on that forever. I'm never going to change that. Well, you're going to get to Mansion World number 1 and they're going to sit you down and be like, wrong. Okay? We don't have DMT here. This is a spiritual kind of, not that you're going to go to hell. See, that's what the thing is. Mercy, mercy, mercy. You're not going to, if you hold that, this isn't a list of don't do's. It's a list of do's. Do ascend in the universe. Do up your status. Let go of that which is holding you back. See that? That's a positive way to frame that. Letting go is a proactive action, not I'm going to do self-denial and self-torture and all that sort of stuff in order to get it. No, just pursue the deeper and greater things. All right, I don't know if I'm missing. Am I missing comments here? All right, if anybody has a question or comment, let me know about the Urantia book. But all these things are taught in here, folks. I'm just kind of synthesizing it a little bit. So definitely pick up the Urantia book. Here we go. Okay, we were right here. All right. This divine energy pervades all creation. The force organizers initiate those changes and institute those modifications of Space Force, which eventuate in energy. The power directors transmute energy into matter. Thus, the material worlds are born. You see, it requires a conscious being. This is a being. The power directors are actual living entities that are able to change this matter. The life carriers initiate these processes in dead matter, which we call life, material life. So again, there are spiritual beings who are putting life into dead matter. The Urantia power supervisors likewise perform throughout the transition realms between the material and spiritual worlds. So they're in control of how the power is whirling around in the Urantia spheres in the worlds just after this, as we talked about, the mansion worlds. Likewise perform throughout the transition realms between the material and spiritual worlds. So that's why, remember, Urantia is a transitionary phase between material and spiritual. So that it's not just this one step concept like they teach in Western man's scripture about just death and heaven. There's so many more types of transformations that we need to make because the gulf is that large. The higher spirit creators inaugurate similar processes in divine forms and energy, and there ensure the higher spirit forms of intelligent life. Okay. Energy proceeds from paradise. Let's see. Fashioned after the divine order. Energy, pure energy, partakes of the nature of the divine organization. It is fashioned after the similitude of the three gods embraced in one as they function at the headquarters of the universe of universe. So energy is divine in origin, as you can see. And all force is circuited in paradise, comes from the paradise presence, and returns thereto, and is in essence a manifestation of the uncaused cause. See, this is where science can't wrap its mind around that, and it shouldn't. That shouldn't be the role of science. All right, science is about material facts and things. It shouldn't try to contemplate the uncaused cause. Not that the scientists shouldn't, but the field itself. Um, this is spiritual. Having an uncaused cause is unscientific of a concept, but we as spiritualists have no problem with that sort of thing because we understand the creator personality, the one uncaused cause, the universal Father. We can feel it within us every single day. Why do you think that? I bet you it was more than 50%, I think. The last time I looked about how many people believe in God in this world, this twisted backwards world with all these wars happening. Not there's not good, but you know, the world system of things is you got to lock your doors, you got to be robbed, you know, how many victims are there a year and stuff like that. Even through all that, people are still believing in God. It's way more than 50%, I think. I forget. If anybody knows that fact, feel free to. But it's because we can feel it because it's just a reality, okay? And if you're too looking for proof all the time, doubting Thomas and all that, then you're gonna miss the forest through the trees sort of concept. It is fashioned, okay, we read that. And without the Father would not anything exist that does exist. Right? It's so fundamental, everybody. We're living it right now. So you could take a moment and just breathe a sigh of relief. It's all going to be fine. We're proceeding into eternity here, folks, and we are merely just on this level of kindergarten. Force derived from self existent deity is in itself ever existent. Force energy is imperishable. Our scientists know this. Matter cannot be created and energy cannot be created or destroyed, indestructible. These manifestations of the infinite may be subject to unlimited transmutation, endless transformation, and eternal metamorphosis, but in no sense or degree, not even to the slightest imaginable extent, could they or ever shall they suffer extinction. But energy, though springing from the infinite, is not infinitely manifest. There are outer limits to the presently conceived master universe. So they're saying it just doesn't extend on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, which is one hypothesis about the size of the universe. They're saying there's bounds. Well, how could there be a bound? I've thought that. How could there be a bound? Because what's outside of the bound, right? Well, this kind of explains it. Let's see. Energy is eternal, okay, but not infinite. So it means it lasts forever, right? But it's not going to just spread out everywhere infinite, okay? It ever responds to the all-embracing grasp of infinity. Forever, force and energy go on. Having gone out from paradise, they must return thereto, even if age upon age be required for the completion of the ordained circuit. That which is of paradise deity origin can have only paradise destination, or a deity destiny. See, it's all coming back eventually. You just got to ride it out. If you ride it out for long enough, then you're going to get there. And all this confirms our belief. Now, here we go. This is how they describe how the universe can be bounded in a circular, somewhat limited, but orderly and far-flung universe of universes. So they do teach this circular concept, which is another one of our theories about the universe, that eventually it just kind of folds back in on itself. There's literally nothing beyond. It's not like a donut that's folding in on itself. And there's a table beyond the donut. No, everything is in the donut. Everything is folding back in on itself in a circular and far-flung universe of universes. If this were not true, then evidence of energy depletion at some point would sooner or later appear. So they'd say, oh no, it's just going out forever and it's being depleted. All laws, organizations, administration, and the testimony of universe explorers, us, everything points to the existence of an infinite God, but as yet, a finite universe. A circularity of endless existence, well nigh limitlessness, but nevertheless finite in contrast with infinity. So it never ends. It's eternal, but there's bounds to where it then begins to fold back and return on itself. So that, folks, is how paradise forces and energies are set up and established. Let's look at universal non-spiritual energy systems. This is page 469 here, Energy, Mind, and Matter. Okay, it is indeed difficult to find suitable words in the English language whereby to designate and wherewith to describe the various levels of force and energy, physical, mindal, or spiritual. These narratives cannot altogether follow your accepted definitions of force, energy, and power. There is such paucity of language that we must use these terms in multiple meanings. In this paper, for example, the word energy is used to denote all phases and forms of phenomenal motion, action, and potential, while force is applied to the pre-gravity and power to the post-gravity stages of energy. So deep, heady type stuff there. I'm not sure if I'm missing comments, but somebody would not mind just giving me a comment to make sure that I'm actually seeing things here. If you wouldn't mind just saying anything, doesn't make a difference. Oh well. I will, however, endeavor to lessen conceptual confusion by suggesting the advisability of adopting the following classifications of cosmic force, emergent energy, and universe power. Physical energy. All right, let's see. What is this? Space potency, number 1. This is the unquestioned free space presence of the universe. Oh, unqualified absolute. That's the non personal aspect of God. That's like just beyond kind of comprehension. The extension of this concept connotes the universe force space potential inherent in the functional totality of the unqualified absolute, while the intention of this concept implies the totality of cosmic reality, universes, which emanated eternity wise from the never beginning, never ending, never moving, never changing Isle of Paradise. See, we're talking about energy, mind, and matter, which had origins in paradise and God and those sort of things. But these levels of God and paradise, the Isle of Paradise, they're beyond time. They don't have beginnings and they don't have endings. They just always were. The phenomena indigenous to the nether side of paradise, that's this under aspect, this underside of paradise, embrace three zones of absolute force, presence, and performance. The fulcral zone of the unqualified absolute, the zone of the Isle of Paradise itself, and the intervening zone of certain unidentified equalizing and compensating ages of functions. These triconcentric zones are the centrum of the paradise cycle of cosmic reality. So if you want to know where freaking reality comes from, um, now, so it's emanating. They're actually able to position where this stuff is emanating from in nether paradise. Space potency is pre-reality. It is the domain of the unqualified absolute. Okay, so it's more fundamental than reality itself, as we would experience it, as the unqualified absolute. And again, your mind breaks down there. There's no way to put your mind into that sort of thing beyond the unqualified absolute, because how can you say what could the reality be? What's pre-reality? Well, all we know is reality. I don't even know if we can attain or ever understand that other than more than a concept, even if we go return all the way back to paradise. It is responsive only to the personal grasp of the universal Father, notwithstanding that it's seemingly modifiable by the presence of the primary master force organizers. Okay. On Uversa, space potency is spoken of as absoluta. Okay, so they're introducing a new term there. Absoluta is what space potency is. It's this pre-reality, folks. So now your mind is just that much more expanded to understand that there's something that literally is pre-reality, where our scientists are going to poke around with, or maybe not even scientists, but the word is eluding me right now. Cosmologists, maybe philosophers, maybe they're going to poke around with multi-dimensional. You know, there's this never-ending dimension. Every time you make a decision, you're going to branch off, and there's a universe for every decision that you didn't make. If the coin landed on heads, and that's its whole universe, and they branch off. There's no sense or purpose in anything like that in existence. It's just useless duplication. It's uneconomic, useless duplication of universe function. And the divine doesn't need to resort to any type of thing like that. Remember, it's about personality in the universe, your experience in the universe. On Uversa space, okay, primordial force. This represents the first basic change in space potency and may be one of the nether paradise functions of the unqualified absolute. We know that the space presence is going out from nether paradise is modified in some manner from that which is incoming. So they are these waves of gravity. And in fact, it might have been Einstein that theorized about gravitational waves. I forget, but it's one of the current scientific buzz topics is this gravitational waves. And this book very clearly and plainly points out that this is stemming from nether paradise. They even call it gravity in other parts. But regardless of any such possible relationship, the openly recognized transmutation of space potency into primordial force is a primary differentiating function of the tension presence of the living paradise force organizer. So again, there's beings that are tempering this type of stuff. Passive and potential force becomes active and primordial, in response to the resistance afforded by the space presence of the primary eventuated master force organizers, beings, living entities. Force is now emerging from the exclusive domain of the unqualified absolute into the multiple realms response to certain primal motions initiated by a god of action. That's the third person of deity, which we talked about, the conjoint actor, or the Holy Ghost, as Christianity refers. But now you get a much better picture of what this quote unquote Holy Ghost, this etheric entity, now we see the response to certain primal emotions initiated by the God of action. Okay, this third person of the Trinity is putting out these motions of space, and thereupon to certain compensating motions emanating from the universal absolute, coordinate, bringing that down, taking something that this absoluta, right, and then modifying it so that we can experience it as reality. Primordial force is seemingly reactive to transcendental causation in proportion to absoluteness. Primordial force is sometimes spoken of as pure energy. So that's what it is. That's transcendental causation. On Uversa, we refer to it as segregata. So there's this prima, what is this other one called again? Absoluta and then segregata. Okay, the primordial force is the segregata. Space potency is absoluta. Okay. Then there's emergent energies. Remember, all they're doing here is they are defining our various terms for physical energy. Okay, these are non-spiritual energy systems, but their origins are spiritual. But we want to know, what is force? What is energy? So we're learning emergent energies. The passive presence of the primary force organizers is sufficient to transform space potency into primordial force. And it is upon such an activated space field that these same force organizers begin their initial and active operations. Primordial force is destined to pass through two distinct phases of transmutation in the realms of energy manifestation before appearing as universe power. So it's turning this stuff into energy. These two levels of emergent energy are, one, I don't know how to say that, puissant energy. I don't know if that's a word in the English language or they're revealing something. This is the powerful directional mass, movemented, mighty tensioned, and forcible reacting energy. Gigantic energy systems set into motion by the activities of the primary force organizers. This primary or puissant energy is not at first definitively responsive to paradise gravity pull, though probably yielding an aggregate mass or space directional response to the collective group of absolute influences operative from the nether side of paradise. When energy emerges to the level of initial response to the circular and absolute gravity grasp of paradise, the primary force organizers give way to the functioning of their secondary associates. Okay, so just a really kind of beyond my understanding of how this energy is coming into, but at least we know that there's beings in charge of this that are benevolent and loving. So it's not just like, here, we're going to make this machine and see what happens. No, this is all for a purpose, for the gift of life, for the romance and the adventure that all the beings that God creates is going to have, experiencing and engaging in all of this sort of thing. Now, this is interesting. Gravity energy. The now appearing gravity response energy carries the potential of universe power and becomes the active ancestor of all universe matter. The secondary or gravity energy is the product of energy elaboration resulting from the pressure, presence, and the tension trends set up by the associate transcendental master force organizers. In response to the work of these force manipulators, space energy rapidly passes from the puissant to the gravity stage, thus becoming directly responsive to the circular grasp of paradise, absolute gravity, while disclosing a certain potential for sensitivity to the linear gravity pull inherent in the soon appearing material mass of the electronic. Now this is a whole different form of system. Now we're getting it. So now it's pulling this energy, and now it's creating this electronic system. In the post-electronic stages of energy and matter. Upon the appearance of gravity response, the associate master force organizers may retire from the energy cyclones of space, provided the universe power directors are assignable to that field of action. So now they're switching over. It's all about bestowing any sort of duty that can be bestowed, or else one being would just have all the fun. But now they're just giving this over to these master force, okay, or the universe power directors, okay? Now, we are quite uncertain. Who is we exactly? Let's look. Let's see who these we, the authors are. Look at it even goes into natural philosophy under the energy, mind, and matter category. So we're going to have to look how natural philosophy. This is a long paper. This is Mighty Messenger. Oh, interesting. Okay. This is presented by a mighty messenger on duty in Nebadon and by the request of Gabriel. So a mighty messenger, folks, we have the potential to be mighty messengers once we proceed all the way up to the level of paradise, world after world. We go through all of these billions of worlds on Havona and are learning. And remember, the pace belongs to you, so you can skip worlds, you can skip the mansion worlds. But eventually you end up on paradise, and then as you further your learning, you're mustered into the core of finality, and then you may become a mighty messenger, and then you go back and teach beings that are behind you, and you have an unrevealed destiny. So this is somebody who was a person at one time. That's who we're reading about now. And a mighty messenger was considered an ascending son of God. Let's write that down so that we can understand that concept. This is a key concept here. You have ascending sons and daughters of God. I don't know how to spell. Okay. This, folks, we are in this category. We start off in this lowly estate. We are the lowest form of intelligence in the universe right now, but we have the ability to gain, as you see this mighty messenger did. So the ascending sons of God is the mighty messengers. They were ascending sons of God. Now they're mighty messengers. They've already ascended. And then there's the descending sons and daughters of God. That would be your Jesus of Nazareth. Those are your beings who were, at a higher level, and then they step down to this level in order to teach and that sort of thing. So the ascending, this mighty messenger, in fact, now becomes a descending son. It goes all the way up to paradise, and then comes back to these lowly worlds of time and space to do things like write the freaking Urantia book. All right, so let's see what these other forms are. Actually, you know what? I'm going to jump. If you have an objection to that, feel free to drop it in the comments. But we were learning about energy there. And let's see. I'm trying to check out my messages to make sure that I haven't missed anything. So I can't see it. I apologize if I have missed your comments, folks. I am very kind of new to this. Here we go. Natural philosophy. Religion is not alone dogmatic. Natural philosophy equally tends to dogmatize. So I see this. I see if people are in atheism has become a religion. They're not open-minded about the fact that there might be a God, right? That is a natural philosophy, and it's dogmatized. Religion, if you have a religion that says truth is living, then you don't have to dogmatize your religion. This isn't teaching a dogmatic religion, but I'll just quickly say that the one unchallengeable dogma in the universe is that We are children of God. You can't prove that. It's you can feel it in yourself. Nobody can disprove that, for instance. It's unchallenged. How are you going to tell me that I'm not a son of God? What are you going to say? How are you going to challenge that? You could try by saying, well, because evolution is a real thing and that disproves the Bible. And I say, well, that's just the Bible. That's not me being a son of God. Okay? So there is an unchallengeable dogma in the universe, and that's our relationship to deity and divinity because it's personal, never to be proved with science and never to be disproved with science, never to be proved with philosophy, never to be disproved with philosophy. Never. Never means dogma, right? Unchanging. Unchanging attitudes are dogma. Religion, though, you could add a lot of other things to it that are dogma, that are incorrect. Like, for instance, Adam and Eve. God pulled Eve's rib out of Adam's ass, or whatever that story, however that goes. And then, that's a dogma that they're holding. That's a challengeable dogma. But just having religion doesn't necessarily mean that you're dogmatic if you understand that um, faith is living, or truth is living, I mean. Okay, here we go. And faith. Here we go. When a renowned religious teacher reasoned that the number 7 was fundamental to nature because there are 7 openings in the human head, ears, nose, right, eye sockets, if he had known more of chemistry, he might have advocated such a belief founded on a true phenomena of the physical world. So there is in all the physical universes of time and space, notwithstanding the universal manifestation of the decimal constitution of energy, which would be 10, I guess, the ever-present reminder of the reality of the sevenfold electronic organization of prematter. I don't know enough about the chemistry there to know where that's coming in. The number 7 is basic to the central universe and the spiritual system of inherent transmission of character. But the number 10, the decimal system, is inherent in energy, matter, and the material creation. Nevertheless, the atomic world does display a certain periodic characterization which reoccurs in groups of 7, a birthmark carried by this material world indicative of its far distant spiritual origin. So they're kind of giving a nod to natural philosophy there and saying that it's not all just BS. This sevenfold persistence of creative constitution is exhibited in the chemical domains as a recurrence of similar physical and chemical properties in segregated periods of 7 when the basic elements are arranged in the order of their atomic weights. Okay. I don't know enough to speak about that. When the Urantia chemical elements are thus arranged in a row, any given quality or property tends to reoccur by 7s. This periodic change by 7s recurs diminishingly and with variations throughout the entire chemical table, being most markedly observed in the earlier or lighter atomic groupings. Starting from any one element, after noting some one property, such a quality will change for 6 consecutive elements. But on reaching the 8th, it tends to reappear. Okay, I vaguely remember that. That is, the 8th chemically active element resembles the 1st, the 9th, the 2nd, and so on. Such a fact of the physical world unmistakably points to the sevenfold constitution of ancestral energy, and it's indicative of the fundamental reality of the sevenfold diversity of the creations of time and space. So that's a key concept. Where I believe that concept comes from is because the Trinity is 3, but there's 7 ways that they can act. So if you have God the Father, God the Son, and then the conjoint actor, the third person, so they can each act as one entity, right? Father acting alone, Son. Then these two can combine to give us a 4th. These two can combine to give us a 5th. These two can combine to give us a 6th. And then all of them together combine to give us a 7th. So there's 7 associations that you have with the Trinity. And I believe that is why that keeps occurring and reoccurring, and 7 is the important. Now let's look, because they give more. Unreality, blah, blah, blah. There's fundamental reality, seven. Okay. Sevenfold diversity. Man should also note that there are 7 colors. There you go. In the natural spectrum. So there you go. There's another 7 for you. But not all the suppositions of natural philosophy are valid. Right. This is where it's saying, there's one. That one works, guys. You know, that guy saw 7 holes in the human head with the eyes and nose. For example, the hypothetical ether, which represents an ingenious attempt. This is old school science. They thought everything was suspended in ether. Oh, whoa, we have a comment. To checking this out. Yeah, hey, Ryan, good to hear. Yeah, pick yourself up a copy. I mean, it just never ends. All right. Which represents an ingenious attempt of man to unify his ignorance of space phenomena. Right. The philosophy of the universe cannot be predicated on the observations of so-called science. Now, here's why. You have, remember, this is a different realm. Science, philosophy is of the mind. Science is of the matter, and religion is more of the spirit, but your personal relationship to God is the personal. If such a metamorphosis could not be seen, a scientist would be inclined to deny the possibility of developing a butterfly out of a caterpillar. How could you possibly look at those two things and say, I mean, you could look at, like, for instance, a baby whale and a big whale and say, oh, well, geez, that I can make that leap. I can make that leap to say I can predict that big whale came from a baby whale, but you can't look at, you would think it came from a little butterfly, some sort of metamorphosis like that. But you have to use science there, and the science would easily be able to conduct that test and experiment and figure out, oh, okay, no, they come from caterpillars, right? You're not using philosophy there. Physical stability associated with biologic elasticity is present in nature only because of the well-nigh infinite wisdom possessed by the master architects of creation. So beings, again, master architects are living entities, advanced beings. Biologic elasticity, growing, a person growing, geez, that's actually stable? Well, that's crazy because it's the most elastic thing that's going. How can that be stable? Well, just because the master architects designed it that way. Nothing less than transcendental wisdom could ever design units of matter which are at the same time so stable and so efficiently flexible. And that's even just, biologic, okay, right? So you're saying it's going to fall short, people. All of the different science and theories, eventually you're going to have to go to the spiritual. You're going to have to go to the heart. All right, folks. So I think we're pretty much going to wrap it up for today. Unless anybody has something that they want to see, a question or anything like that, give you guys a couple minutes to think about if there's anything else that you want to ask. Maybe take a stretch. All right, looks like everybody's good. That was just a little bit in the Urantia book. Remember, we were going so deep into these topics, so mind-blowingly deep in. Look at what we touched in this book. All right, those were all on these pages. Look at how much is in here. I love to do this at the end of the videos because you see, like, oh my God, that's so deep. There's so much freaking mind-blowing information in those 2-3 pages that we talked about for an hour and a half, right? It doesn't even touch what is in here. I mean, it's all like that, but that language is like deep. But it's all very, you can grasp enough of it. If you're thinking about getting the Urantia book and you're overwhelmed, don't be overwhelmed because you'll grasp enough of it at each stage that you read. They're going to have those aha moments. Like I had that one today about how the nucleus of the most tiny aspects of matter, the nucleus of it, is actually paradise, which makes me really feel like paradise is all around us, even right now. Even though we're so far removed, it still is all around us in this paradoxical way. And there's going to be things that you grasp. But then, if you knew everything today, then what would tomorrow hold? So you pick up the same paper and you read it again tomorrow, then you're going to have those other aha moments. It's like, yes, I can let go of my fear, anxiety, and tension, just flow in this universe. And that's what this is about. This book is a corrective measure for all of the unfortunate things that have happened on our world, to put it into this rebellious status, to make it a cosmic prison world where you have to be afraid of what your government's going to do or not do, or who's going to bomb what, and all that sort of stuff, right? But we don't have to be afraid of that, because we have been saved out. We're going to be saved out of all that, and you won't see it until it's going down and it's collapsing around. You're going to say, geez, this isn't happening to me. And then you're going to know the reality of these things, folks, when you firsthand experience it, right? But until then, carry on in the faith walk. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks again for checking out the stream. Please like and subscribe also if you haven't already. All right, take care.